Hey everyone, my name is Amanda and I'm the Fun Size Reader. And now that 2023 is officially over, I have come up with a list of my top reads for the entire year. Since I read both fantasy romance and contemporary romance, I've split them into two different lists because it's just hard to compare the two. At least for me. It's really hard to say this one's better than this one when they're just so completely different. So I had to make two lists. Originally, this was supposed to be two videos, but it's not going to be. It's going to be one video all mushed in for your viewing pleasure. Normally, when I make this video, I try to only choose books that I only gave 5 stars to. Everything on this list should be a 5-star read, but I was pretty stingy with 5 stars last year. I did not give very many 5s in 2023. A lot of this list is vibes and vibes only. Obviously, ones that I gave 5 stars to are on this list, but there are not many. And I typically try to do 5 fantasy romance and 5 contemporary romance, but I didn't have enough fantasy romance that I thought should officially be on this list. So there's only going to be 3. It is what it is. Hopefully I'll read way more fantasy romance next year. I plan to. There's quite a bit on my TBR already. Let's start with the contemporary romance. Let's start with number 5. Number 5 is called Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. And this is the first book in a new professional hockey romance series. Of course, I had to put a hockey romance on my top 5 list. I really liked this book. I read it when I was just completely binging contemporary romance. And I just kept queuing up more and more and more. And this was one of those. I never got to record a video for it. So I at least want to tell you what I think about it here. I've already read the second one in the series. So I think I'm going to just kind of lump them together and make a whole video. So look forward to that. But this book is a grumpy, sunshiny, grouchy hockey player romance where she takes a job kind of being his assistant / dog walker person. He has her move in with him so she can better take care of the dog. So there's a forced proximity, grumpy sunshine, teach me kind of vibes. It's pretty spicy. The series so far is pretty spicy. But it's really, really cute and really, really good. And I really enjoyed the book and obviously enough to read the second one. Number 4 is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I read this one very, very early on in the year because it was so popular. So many people were reading it. It was long. I wasn't expecting it to be this long, but it was so good. The grumpy sunshine in this book was fantastic. I loved Knox so much. The grumpy bar owner vibe, he wasn't a bar owner. It was I don't remember. I think maybe it was. I don't remember. It was a long time ago, but I loved him. The story itself was just also really good. There was way more than just the romance in the story. Having the evil twin element and having this niece that's forced into her life that she now has to take care of and showing up in this small town and trying to fit in there. It just was really, really good. And I think it's only the size that's stopping me from reading the next one in the series, which I plan to do this year. Number 3 is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Abby is an auto-buy author for me. So of course, when she put out the second book in the Part of Your World duet, I had to read it. This one followed the other doctor friend, Brianna. Kind of reminded me of Grey's Anatomy-esque, you're in a hospital, you're working together, fake dating with this new doctor that showed up. But there's a lot of emotional things that happen in this book and a lot of dealing with mental health. The reason why this one didn't get a full 5 stars for me, though, was the miscommunication trope. Oh, the miscommunication. It drove me crazy. So I couldn't give it a 5, but it was very, very, very high up on my list. Obviously, I love everything that Abby puts out, and this one had to be a top 5 contender. Number 2 is A Long Time Coming by Megan Quinn. This was the 3rd book in the Kane Brothers series. It was my favorite friends to lovers of all time that I've ever read so far. That's a big statement for me. My husband and I were friends to lovers, so that trope holds a special place in my heart. So to say that Breaker was my favorite friends to lovers, that's a big deal. This was obviously a friends to lovers where his best friend was getting married. Through her entire planning of her wedding being her best man process, he realizes he has feelings for her. Do not worry. This does not break my rule of cheating in books. Y'all know I hate cheating in books. Don't have to worry about that in this one, I promise. But it is so good. It's so good and very spicy, very spicy. We know Megan writes spicy books, and this was no exception at all. But so good. Go read that whole series. I actually read all 3 Kane Brothers books last year. And number 1 for me could be no other than Happy Place by Emily Henry. I loved this book so much. I need to buy a physical copy. I just don't want to buy a hardback copy because it's going to go on my romance shelf and it won't fit in with the others. So I'm waiting for it to get released in paperback. I loved this book. There was so much more to this book than the romance. It's not really a fake, but it's kind of pretending that you're still together after you broke up because you're going on this tradition friend vacation with your other friends that are showing up from college. You've gone on this trip every single year. You've all been couples together. And on this trip, everyone starts to realize that lives are going in different directions. Relationships are changing and things are not what they used to be during this trip. It's just, I sat and I cried. I feel like there's something that anybody reading this can relate to and get out of this book. It just was beautiful. It was beautiful. I loved this book so much. All right, now we're going to move on to my top fantasy romance of 2023. There were 3. I did a top 3 for fantasy romance, but I'm going to just quickly name some honorable mentions. Honorable mention number 1 is The Curse of Ophelia by Nicole Platania. I really liked this book. I really want to keep reading and go on to the number 2, which is already out, and number 3, which is coming out next year. But I just didn't continue on with the series this year. I just didn't get to it. It's definitely got that badass female main character who is a warrior inspired by the gods. There's angels, there's trials, there's finding your true love. It's really good. Just go read it. The next honorable mention is Iron Flame. If you've seen my review on this, you will know that this did not get a full 5 stars from me. I had very strong opinions on the first part of the book and really liked the second part of the book. It just couldn't hit that full 5 stars. Honorably mentioned, it was a really good fantasy read from the year. Also, honorable mention is Divine Rivals. This was very different, a very unique fantasy book. I really could see this one in my head as being on the big screen. Just the visuals of being in that old war time, but also having magical realism and fantasy woven throughout. I could just see it as a movie, and I think it would be really good. I do want to read the second one. I've heard it's really good, and I really liked it, but I couldn't give it a full 5 stars. All right, so my top 3. Number 3 is Assistant to the Villain. I really liked this book. It was just under 5 stars for me. Just under. I'm so looking forward to the next one. If you have seen Hannah's videos, she does skits where she's pretended to be this assistant to this villain character. She is sunshine. He is grumpy. I originally did not think that this was going to be a fantasy book. And then I started reading it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a fantasy book. And it was so refreshing, so funny, quirky, cute. She basically works for this villain because she needs to make money to support her father and her sister. She helps him do his nefarious deeds and they are very clearly attracted to each other, but he's a villain and she works for him, so he can't do anything about it. So cute, you guys, so cute. Number 2 is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I loved this book. I loved it. This was Vampire Hunger Games. I read it very early in 2023. As I read every fantasy book throughout the whole rest of the year, I was chasing this high. I did get the high, which is why I have a number 1, but this one was so good. I loved Rain. I just thought everything about this book was exciting and thrilling. You just kept wanting to read it, and I had to have the physical copy of it. I was a little let down by the second book, more let down than I lead on. The first one still was one of my favorite books of last year. And of course, number one, the book that gave me the high that I was chasing from Serpent and the Wings of Night. It happened with most of us. Y'all probably know what I'm going to say already. It was Fourth Wing. I picked Fourth Wing for my April Fun Size Book Club. We all got to read it together. I read this in days. It was so freaking good. And I just knew from the first chapter. I knew from the first chapter that this book was going to be amazing. I loved it. I really, really hope that the whole series can keep up with the vibes that I felt from the first one. Well, that's it. That's everything that I absolutely loved in 2023, along with some honorable mentions. It was a good reading year. 2023 was a good reading year, but I think 2024 is going to be better. There are a lot of great books coming out. There are a lot of series that I want to finish. I think it's going to be even better than last year, you guys. Let me know in the comments below what was your top book of the year. Fantasy, romance, whatever, I don't care. But let me know, did we share any top books? If you like reading books with fantasy, romance, and contemporary romance, I post reviews to my channel every single week. So make sure that you click like and subscribe so you are notified when I post a video. Here's to having amazing reads in 2024. Thanks so much for coming today, and I'll see you guys next time.